Hello, hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are on live tonight here at the Pivot Poll, and I want to thank every one of you guys for joining us tonight and getting on. We always are so elated and excited to have the opportunity to share this time with you guys, to share this time, just laughing, sharing, debating, everything that we do here on the Pivot Poll. We always look forward to this time that we get to spend with you all. So we want to say welcome and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy days to come and spend some time with us here at the Pivot Poll. We are always glad to be here. So I'm Andretta Guthrie, and I am here with my BFF, Heather. Uh, and so we have planned a really extraordinary show for you guys tonight. This broadcast is one that means a lot to both of us. And so we want you guys to really chime in, share this broadcast on your pages with your friends. Tonight, we are talking about the blessings, disappointments, and the realities of life raising an autistic child. The blessings, the disappointments, and the realities of raising an autistic child. And so this broadcast means a lot to me in particular, and so much to Heather too, but me as the BFF, because I get to be here to support Heather as she shares her journey with you. She will share her journey with you. Just as a disclaimer for us, Heather is sharing her journey, her story, her experiences, raising a child who is on the spectrum. And so we're not here being doctors or experts of any kind. We just want to allow her an opportunity on this platform to share her story. Heather, will this be the first time that you've gotten an opportunity to share your story on a platform like this?
I believe so. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I just thought about that. I said, I don't think I've known you for some time, but I didn't want to assume, but this will be the first time. So you guys will get this opportunity to hear it first from Heather's perspective, from her journey. And so I'm going to be here supporting, that I will chime in. I want you guys, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to comment, as you always do. We want a variety of shows here. There are many shows where we will get to tackle those comedic topics and debates, but we also want to offer you guys some substance. We wouldn't be the women that we are if we were not going to dig deep and share from our personal lives, our experiences, where we've been, what we do, where we're going, and who God is, and all of that. This is not one of our typical platforms where we are singing and preaching and praying. But this platform still is a place where we come to be real, where we come to share our realities, our failures, our successes, our journeys. And we are so glad that you guys are here to be a part of that. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Heather. The floor is all yours. And so your share.
Thank you, Andretta. And I was thinking about that earlier. Like, I have not talked about this journey on raising this wonderful autistic child that I have. His name is William. So I'm going to start from the beginning. Just so you guys know, like she said, I'm not a doctor. This is just my experience raising William and raising him to be the almost 20-year-old that he is. So as most parents start out when they find out that they are having a child, it's very exciting and an exciting time. And everything was progressing well until the doctors called me in one day and said, we need to run some tests. So I said, okay. So they ran some tests, and they ran some chromosomal tests to see something just wasn't right in my blood work. So they came back and they said that we think that you are going to have a child with Down syndrome. And it took me back a little, and I said, okay, okay. So I went home and I immediately broke down crying. And I think as a parent, all parents could probably relate to this, that you pray for a healthy pregnancy, you pray for a healthy child. Um,
Absolutely.
so when things kind of turn, it can
Mhm.
take you for a loop.
Yeah.
So I cried about that, and his dad and I had a conversation. We had about 2 weeks to make some decisions, some serious decisions,
Mhm.
and we talked about it, and we were on the opposite ends of the spectrum um, on our thought processes, on what we should do. And um, his dad, based off of his, and it was based off of his experiences, his family experiences, he had one view and I had another view. And we decided, after a long debate, that
Mhm.
we would go ahead and proceed through with the pregnancy.
Mhm.
So the pregnancy developed. I was sick every day until I delivered little William. And when he was born, um, I expected for the doctor to say, okay, yes, the test that you had, this is the result. We see evidence of this. Well, when he was born, they took a while to come back to me to say anything. And they were all puzzled and had these looks on their faces. And I was like, okay, something isn't right. Well, come to find out that what the test was actually picking up was that William had a cleft palate. He was born with a cleft palate and lip pits. So that's actually what the test was picking up, not necessarily the markers for Down syndrome. So I had studied and learned all that I could learn about Down syndrome children, their what to expect, possibly expect, things of that nature, and to find out in the middle of after delivering a child that that's not it. It's actually a cleft palate, which I knew nothing about.
Right.
So I had
Yeah.
to get back on the train of research, and find out what is this and what do we do as parents. For those of you who don't know, cleft palate is where literally there's a hole in your mouth. The mouth didn't form correctly in vitro. So he was born with a hole literally in his mouth and lip pits at the bottom of his lip. Both of these things are genetic. So that's why the test was picking those up. So happy to have him. We were happy to have little William around. But the challenges started immediately. He
Mhm.
did not, because of the cleft palate, he couldn't breastfeed. He could not latch on, take a nipple for the bottle. So feeding a newborn was very challenging. We
Mhm.
had to learn how to feed him so that he could get the nourishment he needed without becoming sick. So that took rounds and rounds and rounds of trial and error. We finally figured out the right thing that he could take that wouldn't upset his stomach, which we had a long, I remember it was a long syringe with this thin tube that we had to put in his little mouth to feed him inch by inch of milk in order for him
Yeah.
to eat. So things progressed. He had his first surgeries at 5 months old with his cleft palate and his lip pits. They removed the lip pits and they closed up his palate the best way they could. And as most parents think smooth sailing, because at that time, that's all that we knew. So
Mhm.
William progressed, but I noticed that he wasn't making some of the milestones that other children were making. It took him a long time to crawl. Took him a long time to turn over. he was not speaking. He wasn't making sounds and following your eyes when you're moving and things of that nature. So I got concerned, and I decided to tell, we talked to his pediatrician about it. So at this time, he was probably around about 18 months old, not speaking and not making some of these markers that most children at that age would have.
Right.
So
Yeah.
his doctor said, well, let's do an evaluation. Brought him in, talked to us as parents, talked to the daycare worker who was working with him, and collectively, with that information and what the doctor actually was observing, she diagnosed him with PDD, which was pervasive developmental disorder. So back then, William is now almost 20, so 19 and some change years ago,
Mhm.
they were never diagnosing an 18-month-old with autism. PDD is a collection or a collective of disorders that it's specified with communication delays and socialization. So because William wasn't speaking, and he had some socialization issues, she diagnosed him with PDD and ADHD because he did have he was displaying some symptoms of ADHD. So
Mhm.
which in a way was a good thing, because here in the state of Georgia, you can get early intervention services if your child has disabilities. So we were
Mhm.
able to get occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech therapy. They came to the daycare worker's house because he was in a home daycare every week. They worked
Mhm.
with him. They worked with the other kids. They took field trips. They did a lot to help him get ready for school.
Right. Yes.
We noticed that, right before it was time for him to go to school, he still wasn't speaking.
Mhm.
And they were working on sign language with him. So we started doing the sign language of yes, no, milk, shoes, things of that nature. And he was starting to get that. And one day after getting him home and settled and in the bed, I remember laying in the bed and just bawling. I said,
Mhm.
Lord,
Oh,
I really want my child to speak.
yeah.
I, I need him to talk.
Mhm.
So I would say within 60 days from that prayer, um, between him and the daycare worker and a whole lot of other prayers going up, probably, he started making sounds.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. So the doctor was like, this is good. This is good. So right before he went to school, William went to school at age 3. Right before he went to school, he started talking.
Oh,
And he hasn't
awesome.
stopped talking since.
I
he
know that's
hasn't he hasn't stopped talking. So um, so I was like, thank you, God. He's talking, he's talking.
that's
So
awesome.
he
That's
went
awesome.
to school at 3, and he progressed through, but even then his teachers were saying there's something going on. He would line his cars up and get very agitated if you moved it. He was
Mhm.
a tippy toe walker. And those are some classic, if you
Mhm.
read up or study about autism, those are some classic indicators and markers for autism. So by the time he was 4.5, almost 5, we had another evaluation. And at that time, that's when they diagnosed him as being on the autism spectrum.
Okay.
So it went from PDD to autism. So that gave me and his dad some time to really learn about how to raise a child with autism. I never knew anyone at that time who had autism until we went to Florida. And we were at a funeral, I believe, and my cousin was there, and she told me that her son had autism. So I never knew anyone who had autism until we had that talk. So that was my first time being able to
Mm.
actually have a conversation with somebody outside of the doctor to say, well, hey, how's life with raising an autistic child? So she gave me some pointers and prayed, and we moved through that. And as the years went on, William developed. He was talking. He was trying to engage with the world the best way that he could. And
Mhm.
it wasn't until I would say about 8 or 9 years old that things took a major turn.
Okay.
He was
Awesome.
in school, everything was seemingly going okay. And then he started having these imaginary friends. So, we all had imaginary friends growing up. Most of the general population did. And we usually grow out of that. Well, William grew into it, and it wasn't good for him. So his doctor said, well, he just has a vivid imagination. I think it's going to be okay.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm,
and I said, okay, well, we'll just continue to watch it. Well, it got worse, and his behavior started to change to the point that he started to become um, violent. Just honest, he became violent.
mhm,
So the doctor got concerned. I was concerned. His dad was concerned. The teachers were concerned. The daycares were concerned. So she put him on an antipsychotic medication
mhm,
to see if that would help to balance some things off. In between that time of doing that, William had his first seizure. He had a febrile seizure, which is when your temperature spikes too high and then you have a seizure. So he was diagnosed with seizure disorder all around this time when his behaviors were starting to get a little bit out of control. So he was on the medication. Things seemed to be going okay. And then the medication started to wear off. So we changed him to another medication, as doctors do. And um, as a result, it worked a little. And then there was some regression. Um, and for me as a parent, that's a hard thing to see your child kind of go through this roller coaster of
mhm,
everything seems to be okay. And then the next day, the bottom falls out. So I went through a lot of crying spells.
mhm,
I went through a lot of being angry
mhm,
and
mhm,
being upset and being very disappointed.
mhm,
Um, I did not want, um, I didn't know how to deal with the emotional roller coasters of raising William. I could do with the physical of, taking care of a child, but
mhm,
the emotional um, impacts were sometimes a little daunting
mhm,
to say the least. So, school and William were like oil and water.
mhm, mhm.
The
Understand.
older he got,
Mhm,
the worse school became for him
mhm,
because of the imaginary friends that now became voices.
mhm,
Um, would tell him one thing and the teacher's telling him something else,
mhm.
and those two things didn't match most
Right,
of the time.
right, right, of course.
Yeah, so fortunately, I worked for a company that really understood that I needed to be on standby pretty
Mhm.
much 180 days of the of the year when school was in session,
Yeah.
because I could talk him down off of a ledge if need be, or I could come to the school. So there were times when I would be in the middle of doing something and the school would call and say, somebody's got to come get him. And his dad
Mhm,
is up 2 hours away or an hour and a half away. So my bosses understood and still do
Yeah.
understand to this day.
Amen for
Yeah, which is a blessing. And they, would let me go and get him. When he was younger, around that 9, 10 years, 11-year age, he would come back to work with me on occasion, or they would let me work at home. So I was very blessed and grateful that I had that flexibility. Um, the worst that it had ever gotten in school is William ran out of the school in high
Mhm.
school. He ran
Wow.
out of the school. And I
Wow.
think that scared enough people
Mhm.
and it scared me enough to say, okay, we really need to reevaluate some things.
Mhm.
And what I've learned about raising William as an autistic child is that the way that medication works in him doesn't necessarily work the same way in other
Mhm.
individuals.
Right.
So we're always changing things or always tweaking things based off of how he's growing and progressing.
Mhm.
So as of today, William has been on countless number of medications. And some of them have worked and some of them have not. So it's just a process and progress that you have to kind of go through with
Mhm.
him when it comes to trying to find the right, they call it a cocktail, trying to find the right thing
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
is going
Mhm.
to help him.
Yes.
So, William graduated in 2019. Thank you,
Yay.
Jesus. Yay, he graduated. And right now, he's working with a state agency to see if we can find some placement for him for a job or some kind of work activity to see what he can and can't do. So that's a blessing that we are able to take advantage of those things. Um, so it's that's the good the good side of how this story has kind of shaped itself.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
the disappointments come when you the way that you thought things would be and they didn't turn out that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, I had to make some resolves
Mhm.
in my life. I had to resolve that it's okay, that, he's not going to, he possibly won't be the child who's going to go off to college and become whatever or whoever. And the things that I wanted for him, he might not make those. He might not achieve those things. And
Mhm.
at some point I had to resolve that. It wasn't easy. I cried a lot. I was angry at God. I was angry at anybody I could get my hands on.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I had to finally make some decisions and some resolves about how I was going to interact with him and how he was going to interact with the world.
Mhm.
Um, I throughout all of this, my circle or my community
Mhm.
of family and friends have always been supportive of William. None of them have any children or people that we all know of that have disabilities, but they are all and have always been accepting of William and always accepting of me and learning how to interact with William.
Right. Right.
William is a unique little individual. He can be very funny and
Mhm.
jovial and laughing. And then there's some times when he can be very upset and frustrated and mad and will let the whole world know
Right. Right.
how he's doing or how he's feeling. So I'm fortunate that the community that I'm surrounded by
Mhm.
understands him and understands that things can change in his world, just like
Right.
they can change in mine. Um, we, I learned, and I had to learn this. This is a part of the realities of life. I think sometimes I set myself, I painted a picture for myself that wasn't accurate. And I will say
Okay,
that.
how so? How so?
Well, because as a parent, your role is to protect your child or your children.
Mhm.
And I thought by not exposing William to
Oh,
people
okay. Yeah.
was the best way to keep him safe and
Okay.
to keep me safe. And
Mm-hmm.
what I mean by keeping me safe is the assumed judgment that comes along with having a child who might do some things that aren't
Yeah.
necessarily what the other children are doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So it was not until I met Andretta, actually, that she said, "So you got a child?" I said,
Yeah.
I do. And she was the one that really convinced me that, you know, this is a safe environment, meaning our church. A
Right.
church is a safe environment. And, you know, I don't think, Heather, that these people are going to do what you are thinking they're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I took a leap and I believed her, and she was absolutely 110% correct. Everybody at our church knows William, um, and everybody is supportive of William um, for all the years that we've been there. And so that taught me a valuable lesson that sometimes we can work things up in our mind and
Mhm.
make it appear real
Right.
when in all reality that is really not. And that's
Mm.
just fear. That's your fear coming
Yeah.
through really strong. And
Right.
I do believe that if I had continued on that path, I would have eventually passed that to William.
Yeah.
And that
I want to chime in there, Heather, just for a minute, because that's really good. That's, I mean, that's powerful what you're saying. Um, because when I met Heather, and I'm just going to kind of piggyback off of what you said, when I met Heather, I did not know that, Heather, and we sing at our church, the Church Covington in Oxford, Georgia, but we are worship leaders there too, and we were singing together for a while, and I didn't know she had a son. And so I don't know whether it was talking or someone mentioned it to me.
someone mentioned it.
Someone mentioned that you had a son, and I said, well, I've never seen her son before. And so as Heather and I began to grow closer, and I'm saying, okay, well, where is your son? You know, Heather is the first person I'll say that I've known intimately that has a child that is autistic. And so just by spending time talking to her, I really could pick up on the fear and the anxiety that she felt in deciding to bring him around. And so I did say to her, I think we were in a bit of an argument about that. We've been arguing forever, haven't
We
we?
have been. We
That
have
was
been.
a poll too, wasn't it?
It
I said,
was. It
well,
was.
why don't you bring him? And she says, no, because people are not going to receive him. And I said, well, what people? And so we kind of we went into a little bit of a tug of war about it, because she really just felt strongly that that people would not accept him because of maybe the behavior and things that people just don't seek to understand or are not sensitive to. And I just, first of all, because of the church that we attend, but also I just felt like, well, no, I just kind of said, hey, come, bring him on. And for number one, I don't think that's going to happen. But number two, if it does, that's kind of somebody else's problem who doesn't get it. You know what I'm saying? And so, she brought him, I think that next Sunday you
I
brought
did.
him, and he's great there. The people love William. Like she said, everybody knows William, but I could definitely pick up on, and I think I said, I think you're judging the people before you give them a chance. You're judging those people, Heather. Please don't judge the people, allow them to show you, who they are, and allow people to respond the way that sometimes people will surprise you. And I was blessed because you could see that relief, come over her, that she was able to bring him to the house of God and not feel, that's a major thing, to be able to bring your child to a place where they are accepted. So I just definitely recall that time and how she was able to kind of break through the fear and the anxiety. And so that always blesses me when you were just telling that story. It was just a blessing for me to kind of recall that, because I certainly do remember the sentiment behind it, and watching you walk through that. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
kind of hop in there
Yeah.
and say that.
Yeah, it was hard for me to do that,
Yeah.
because I was really thinking, okay, so he's going to go to children's church, and I'm not going to be up there to kind of pivot and move around, because I know him better than anybody else, and I know what's going to possibly exacerbate some things for him. And I was really, really fearful of that. But he made it through. He loved it. I made it through. And he's been coming ever since, to experience church. So that's a blessing, and that's a good thing. So I think, you know, raising a child who's on the spectrum is different for everybody.
Mhm.
Um, I've learned throughout the years that sometimes you just have to take some deep breaths, step away sometimes, ask for help. I didn't do that
Mm.
often.
Yeah, that's
Now
true.
I do.
That's right.
I didn't ask for help. I thought that, I thought two things. I thought it was my responsibility, and I didn't want to be a burden. And I
Mm.
didn't want William to be a burden to anyone.
Yeah.
And I realized that those two things were in error, and
Right.
that there are people in this world who will help you if you
Right.
ask.
Right.
So I learned to ask for help. I learned to say, "Hey, I need, can you watch William for a little bit so I can just go do X, Y, and Z?" And
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, it was a yeah, sure,
Yeah.
bring him. So I learned that along the way. One of the disappointments, um, is could be for others, and it was for me for a while, is that you don't when you're I'll put it to you this way. When I was growing up, when you're with your friends and you
Mhm.
dream about, oh man, when I get married, I'm gonna have 3 kids and a big old house and I had it all. I was there. I had 2 houses, one in the south, one in the north. Oh, I was doing it. Yes, I was.
I know that's.
House or never.
Mhm.
That's not quite how life panned out, and I had to adjust
Mhm.
my thoughts around it. Um, we wanted more children, but based on what doctors were saying, there's some there's some rates out there that if you have one child with who's on the spectrum, your chances of having another child is this, and so all of that clouded our minds, and I didn't want to do that. Um,
Mhm.
but um, you know, it's the disappointments come, but then the realities set in, and then
Mhm.
you work within the realities.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's the best way that I can explain that. You just work within the realities. Um, there are a lot of things that William can do.
Mhm.
There are a lot of things that he will be able to do as he continues to grow and mature, and live this life. So I don't have any regrets. It's just that you have to go through the process.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
and it is literally a process. Um,
Mhm.
William is known, all of his doctors, nurses, lab techs, everybody knows William because there's some things he doesn't care for, but they know him to the point that when they know he's coming in, they help to ease his anxieties. So,
Mm-hmm.
all in all, I think raising an autistic child, yes, it has its challenges, and
Mm-hmm.
yes, it has some disappointments, but the blessing is that, William has taught me some things. He's taught me some patience.
Mm-hmm.
He's taught me that, sometimes even when he is acting out, he does say, "Mommy, I'm sorry." I do
Yeah.
believe that sometimes, but sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So I do believe that. So, it's those small blessings that you look for sometimes when there's chaos running around rampant. And it's good to have friends, and it's good to have family, and it's good to have support.
Mm-hmm.
Some people that you can scream to, yell to, you can they can celebrate with you. It's good to have that,
Mm-hmm.
because I think if I didn't have that, I don't know how either one of us would fare out.
Mm-hmm.
In all
Yeah.
honesty,
Yeah.
so it's been a roller coaster ride. Um, we had a lot of challenges, a lot of different things switching and changing and having to learn this and relearn that. But all in all, raising an autistic child definitely is a blessing, and there are some disappointments. But the realities of life are that he's been given to us for a reason, and it's our responsibility to help raise him to be the best William that he can be.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. I'll say this from, and I think my perspective, and that's why I said, Heather, you have the floor, and you articulated your story and your journey so beautifully, with the grace that you always do carry. Heather, I will say this as her BFF. Heather says people that she can scream to, but Heather, she's one of these people, she doesn't do a whole lot of complaining, a whole lot of belly aching about stuff. She just doesn't. That's just not her nature. I'm probably the one doing way more of that. Um, but she just doesn't. And she carries and walks her journey in her life with a grace. And I always tell her, you got the patience of Job. Like, she just has this grace and this patience, and it's beautiful to watch her, operate in the level of patience that she does. And she is probably like one of the kindest people that I know. And I don't know if that was just a part of her nature or something that God just infused her with for the journey. I don't know. But I will say I just absolutely applaud her for, being who she is as a mother. Like I said, me being a friend, kind of wanted to speak to this from the perspective of being a friend and being a friend. And I had to learn that. And I still learn that. And she knows we talk freely about this stuff all the time. But I had to learn what it means to support a mother who has an autistic child. It is not the same. It is not the same. And the reason why I say it's not the same is because adjusting your expectations, adjusting the level of support, knowing when you need to support, how you need to support, what that person needs in the hour that they need it. Being sensitive is the biggest thing, and empathetic. And, the Lord is raising my level of empathy, because I pray
Praise the Lord.
He's
Hallelujah.
raising my empathy.
Yes,
Yes.
he is, Jesus.
He
Praise the
And
Lord.
how the Lord just brings you to a place and people teach you, people teach you the things that you need to know. But God has just been, allowing me to learn, and to know how to respond because, we all can have bad days and we all can have challenges. but understanding what it means to be a friend and to stand in support and love and acceptance. I remember, I think the first Sunday that you brought him to church, we all went out to eat.
We did.
And um, I recall, just looking back even on that lunch that day and watching how I, as a mother, and how Heather, as a mother, how we operated so very differently. And as I begin to pick up those subtleties, Heather has always operated and still does. She's eased up a lot, but a high level of vigilance, like
Yeah.
super paying attention, super like really paying attention to the moves that William is making, his frustration level, triggers, things that will set him off, when he is just, because it could be something that we see as nothing, but something for him, because she knows him best and she's reared him, she's always, was always in a place where you could tell her anxiety level was kind of up here whenever we would sit down, because she, being the person that she is, just didn't want anybody to be disturbed and didn't want to upset the dinner and upset
Yeah.
the lunch. And so when I started picking up on that, I would say, Heather, it's okay. It's okay. I don't want him to be upset. It's okay. It's okay. You
Mm-hmm.
know, being at our home and different things like that. And I remember one time our family got together and was like, this is our, William is a part of her. He's a part of her life. He's a part of us. If he comes here and needs to do whatever he needs to do, that's what he needs to do. And we receive and support that, because we want her to feel like she has a tribe where she can feel supported and come and do, and be herself and be calm and at peace. But she's always like super considerate of that even. And so, just watching that level of, kind of that awareness, that heightened awareness, because sometimes as, parents, as a mother, I may just forget that my children are even sitting at the table and get to talking and, go and, if we're at a buffet or go wherever, and you kind of don't think about it. Well, I began, because I, was really in a close proximity to her and getting to know her very well at that time. I really started becoming sensitive to the level of awareness she just had to operate in every moment, and just really creating an environment where I was accepting of that. And so, what I've learned and will suggest to anybody is to be sensitive, to be open, because you know that person may not always be able to talk to you when you want to talk. Because I like to talk, and I want, I
Yes.
want, you know, and that may not be the moment. And then also knowing when you're adding to the situation, you know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
so knowing when that person needs just calm and peace and needs to go ride, or they need to, have a dinner brought over, or hey, let's all go to eat, let's go to dinner, let's go do something fun. Let's just discerning what that person needs.
Right.
Like, and I don't know if she minds me sharing, like, she's not going to say it, but I'm going to say, today she's on this broadcast
Mhm.
today. And it is so, I don't want to use the word ironic, but today was a very challenging day,
Very.
um, for William.
Mhm.
And being her friend and hearing the level of challenge and struggle that she was walking through. And I was like, well, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to do, I'm not going to move.
Mhm.
And then you get to the point where you know that your presence will bring some relief to somebody. So you get in your car, you go over, you bring relief, you make somebody laugh, you enjoy, you get involved. You William popped in the car with us and we all went and got Zaxby's and gave her some peace. Being able to do that and growing to the place where you're willing to help share the responsibility and be a village and a tribe and bring love to somebody who just needs it, because
Right.
nobody really knows what it is to walk that journey unless you've walked that journey.
Exactly.
Brene Brown has a quote that she says, and I tell Heather this quote all the time. I don't know if she remembers. I've said it several times about, unless you're in the ring, you know, getting hit. This is the PG version. Then your opinion really, you don't have a whole lot of weight in your opinion until you're standing in the ring taking those punches.
Right.
And so one of the things that, you know, yeah, she said, Rita said, give a caregiver a break. Absolutely. And that's what I knew needed to happen at some point today.
Yes.
And so he was accepting of it. I walked in the house and I said, all right, let's, because sometimes just another presence will shift something. And I
And
said,
it
hey,
did. It shifted him totally today. And I was like, thank you, Jesus. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I
and
definitely appreciate it.
because I saw, and we, now you got FaceTime. Back then you had emails and text message and pages. Now we have FaceTime. And I saw the look on her face and I knew today was a heavy day. And it had been going on all day.
Okay.
She was walking it with the most amount of grace that she could. But as
Mhm.
a friend, I could see she needed support. So
Yeah.
me and my daughter went over there, toward the latter part of the day
Mhm.
and said, hey, I grabbed all my stuff, my computer, my
Mhm.
everything. I said, let's just be a presence. My daughter turned on the worship music
Mhm.
and I said, hey, let's, straighten out your room. We did it. And I said, let's just go. I said, I'm taking him with me. I said, throw your shoes on, you going with me. And he looked at me and looked at her. I said, let's go.
Yep. Yep.
He hopped in the car with me and I snapped a picture. He was in the back seat sleep,
Not that.
probably exhausted, but
Yes.
I knew. I said, and my daughter said, do you want me to go? You want me to stay with Miss Heather? I said, Miss Heather needs her alone time right now.
Mhm.
And that's what she needed. I don't care if it was 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. She needed that alone time. And so I'm saying all of that to say, not to, because there's nothing, no praise that I deserve for that. It was just knowing how to be a friend in the
Yep.
moment, because I've missed
Yeah.
opportunities. And I've told her I've missed opportunities to be what I could have been. And so I learned daily, weekly, yearly, to be a support.
Yes.
So that's what I feel. And as an observer too, being friends with Heather and William, having him in my life, it's helped me to, even when I see people in the store, people in the store, you see things happening and you make judgments
Mhm.
and you realize those judgments are not okay because you don't know what people are going through.
Right.
I remember Heather, you were telling me you used to try to take him to the store. And that's
Mhm.
a challenge. Most people feel like, oh, you grab your kids, you run in the store, you run out. Well,
Mm.
it's not that simple, and I
No.
learned from Heather.
Yeah. Yeah. William used to be afraid of his shadow. So
Mm,
in the grocery store, the lights are very bright. It wasn't good for him.
right,
And he could see his shadow on the floor, and that would not be a good thing.
right,
So trying to go get some eggs and some toast and a little cereal on aisle 6 was
mhm,
not it wasn't easy to
right,
do. So yeah, you have to, having friends who understand. And I believe me today, and it was very ironic that I was going to be talking about raising an
mhm,
autistic child today.
yeah,
It started at 7 o'clock this morning and didn't end until she and her daughter came to my house this afternoon.
right,
So
right,
there was and just that disruption calmed everything down,
mhm,
and everything was good. And he's actually asleep, I think, Lord, hallelujah, right now.
mhm,
So it's just it it's it's a good thing to have good people.
yeah,
And
yeah.
God just happened to place me in a good place, in a good church, with a good person, with 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 a good person.
Right.
So I definitely thank you, for you and Savannah,
Mhm.
today, for coming to be that disruption that
Mhm.
that this house needed.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely welcome because you so deserve it. I really, I've learned so much just in being her friend. And there is, just being, I've seen this sign that used to say, be kind to people because you don't know what they're walking through. And a lot of times, if you're the type of person that kind of walks your journey and your challenges with grace and in silence, people don't always know. And there have been times when I have missed it, and I'll say, "What is happening?" And she'll say, I'm like, "Why didn't you say anything?" And she's like, "Andretta, people don't want to hear you complain every day. People don't want to hear you complain every day." And so just because a person isn't saying anything doesn't mean they don't need you to just be sensitive and do something sweet, do something kind, for them, and just be the type of person that is able to know what, because you don't really know the depth of the journey that anybody is walking, but especially for this subject matter, those who are raising an autistic child. You don't know what that feels like. You don't know what they walk through. You don't know. And so because of that, just asking, even praying when you see those type of things, even in the store, or you have a loved one or someone even in your home or someone who's close to you who is walking through that, and being able to say, what can I do? And just saying, hey, this is what I'm going to do today. Because I didn't ask. I didn't say, can I do this? I just knew something needed to happen. And so, being that light, for them, and helping them to bear. And because it isn't all, because William has a wonderful personality. He's funny. He makes me laugh. He makes her laugh. He sings, he dances, he entertains the praise team.
Yes, he does.
On Wednesdays, he goes through, and he's full of personality, and even getting to know that personality and getting to know, the parts of him that you can connect with and enjoy, and all of those things is so important because there are some autistic children or children who fall on the spectrum who don't like connectivity. William loves
He loves
connecting.
it.
He loves connecting. He'll walk up to people and tell a story, ask a question. He's rooting for his team, watching football, or whatever he's watching, or wrestling, or all the things that he loves. And so just realizing that you have opportunities to connect. I've learned that in this journey with her. And so I'm just blessed to be here with you. I wanted to support you telling this story,
Thank you.
sharing your journey, and I want to applaud you, publicly, for being the mother that you are, the grace that you walk in, the kindness that you carry, and the way that you have even trained him. I've known you guys for some time, and watching him progress, her teaching him how to cook and do different
Mhm.
things. And, you know, she still teaches him her Deb etiquette. The Deb
Yeah.
etiquette is passed on to William. Did you speak, William?
Did
Hello.
you? Thank you.
You gonna clear your plate with, yes, ma'am. So
Thank you.
she so we haven't lost the Deb etiquette that we
No,
woke up
never
with.
will.
Exactly. So, I just want to applaud you, Heather, and thank you so much for, sharing with everyone your story, your journey, and I pray that it blesses someone. Are there any closing words or statements that you want to make
Well,
tonight?
thank you as well. When we talked about what topics we could choose, I was a little nervous about autism. But because I don't always tell my story, and this is the first time that anyone, the public, has heard my entire story from start to finish. And just if I can be of any encouragement to anybody out there who either has a child with autism, or who's on the spectrum, or a child with a disability, or an exceptionality, whatever terms you would like to use, just know that, there is support, and there are people. Make sure you surround yourself around people who care and who love you and love that person that you're caring for. And also know that self-care is important, not just to the general. Oh, Aunt Eve, yes, thank Aunt Eva for those those manners. Yes, Rita. And it's not this is not a death sentence.
Mm-hmm.
um, Persons with disabilities can live a life, they can live a fulfilling life, and
Mm-hmm.
those who support them can too.
Yeah. Amen. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Heather. We want to thank you guys for who shared with us. Hi, Nikki.
Hey, Nikki.
We love you too. Nikki is one of the people that helps with William. She knows William at our church. We love Nikki, and he knows Nikki, and Nikki knows William.
Yes. Very well. Very well.
Every Sunday. So I'll say that thank you, Nikki, for all you do as well. You guys
Yes.
really bring a amount of stability and peace in that area. And so we just honor, and I'm gonna give a plug for our church. Our church
Yeah.
is really proactive in this area. We want people to feel comfortable. And let me say this, if this broadcast happens to get out there, our church really does everything in its power in the past. And with the pandemic, we're ramping back up to those places. But in the past, providing the name, come on, give me the name, Heather.
The dream team.
No, that's not it. Nikki, tell me what it is. Uh,
Oh,
oh gosh.
oh, the buddies. The buddies.
Yeah, the buddy system. Yeah, with the buddy system. And so I love that because there you go. That's the buddies. Thank you. And to have a church that is sensitive to that is amazing. That provide the buddies and that they partner with your children. They've been trained well. Savannah said the buddies, because my daughter is a buddy.
Is a buddy.
So they partner with your children to make sure they feel safe, that they have someone to be with, that they're being watched and cared for the entire time they're there. And so that's a blessing to have an environment where that takes place. And so if you are in our area, in Covington, Conyers, Snellville, Loganville, wherever you might be, and you have not been able or felt comfortable, just as Heather experienced, feeling like maybe I'm unable to do that, as that begins to ramp back up, that there is a place for you.
Yeah.
Call in, talk to us, right, Heather or myself. And when we get back to that place of, gathering and all of that, we want you to come and feel and be able to be in the presence of the Lord without worry. That's just a beautiful thing. And so I just wanted to put that out there because not a lot of people think about that, but we do have a church that thinks about that, and it's important. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. And yes, they are. William, welcome.
Hey, Pastor Thompson.
Pastor Thompson, there you are.
Yes.
They are absolutely special folks. And I have a friend who is absolutely special and I love her. And thank you so much, Heather. And thank you guys for joining us.
Yes, and thank you, Rita, for joining us. Rita is a cousin of mine, and her sister, who is my cousin, has a son who's on the spectrum. So we all have been experiencing and learning throughout the journeys for both of our children. So
Absolutely. So thank you. Welcome, Rita. Thank you for sharing. Nikki, Savannah, Pastor Thompson, all of you who were on here today. We thank you for your time, and thank you, Heather, again for being
Thank
so
you.
transparent and open and vulnerable and sharing your story. I have certainly enjoyed hearing it. I knew a lot of it, but I learned something today. And Pastor Thompson also says they have two nephews who are on the spectrum, and so
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so I don't know when you were able to get on, but definitely check out Heather's whole story and journey if you don't already know it. And it'll bless you, and share it with somebody who might need to hear it. And we want you guys to just gather some encouragement from it, and to know that there's someone else who understands where you are, where you're going, what you've been through, and has some light and some light to shed. And so we
Exactly.
just thank you guys for being here. We love you, love you, love you. We will see you next Friday. Be on the lookout for our next subject matter. We will schedule it out and send it out for you guys to participate with us next Friday. And
Yes.
so we'll see you then. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye.